You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shemaiah Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shemaiah Reed.
Welcome back to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and just like time is a new year. And if you're thinking about new year, new me, well, keep our guest in mind. She's a source of inspiration, and her name is Julie Colombino-Bellingham. She is the founder of Deux Mains, and she is a humanitarian entrepreneur who has turned a tragedy into a lasting purpose. You remember the story of Haiti. We all remember that horrific situation that happened in 2010, the Haiti earthquake. Well, Julie has a powerful story. She heard a sentence that changed everything. I don't want money. I need a job. And with that, she started a amazing journey on a disaster relief project. But it wasn't just something that became a small thing, a small task. It became a global impact where Fairtrade-verified luxury brand and the only woman-owned solar-powered leather goods factory was birthed in Haiti. She's going to unpack that powerhouse story because I had to summarize that in about 30 seconds. She's going to tell us all about that from the beginning. So first and foremost, Julie, thank you for spending some time with us today. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to share our story with you today.
Yes, ma'am. Forgive me for tripping up on the jump rope, but I'm back in the game. When you think about the process of what was going on in Haiti, kind of tell us your story of where were you when that happened? What inspired you to make the next move that you did?
You know, it's kind of a surreal story because at that time in my life, I was living a really life of minimalism. I didn't even have a television. I just wanted to stay really connected to my community, to my job. I had just returned from a trip from South Africa, and I lived with a family who taught me like the importance of living minimalistically and just being grateful for everything that you have. And so the night of the earthquake, I didn't know it had happened, but I had this really strong pull in my heart that I had to go to Haiti. And of course, I was very confused by it. Living in Florida, Haiti is 700 miles from like the shores of Florida, but I had no personal relationships with Haiti, no connection at all. But I just had this thing. It woke me up in the middle of the night. I have to go to Haiti. And so, of course, the next morning as I'm driving to work, I hear on NPR this horrific earthquake, and I was like, oh, wow, okay, I'm supposed to go to Haiti. And I am a trained disaster responder. That's what I was doing as a career. So of course it made sense that this would be a calling that I would want to respond to. But this one was very overwhelming. So at the time I was working at the Heart of Florida United Way. And I walked into the United Way and I walked straight to my supervisor's office and said, okay, I need to take my 2-week vacation. I want to deploy to Haiti. Let's go. Just thinking that, of course, they would say, yes, of course, you have to go. But they said no. And right then and there, I was so convicted, I quit my job and said, I really appreciate the experience at the United Way, but I'm going to Haiti. Like, this is happening. And so luckily, within like a few hours, everything was resolved and they allowed me to deploy to Haiti and not lose my job. And then from there, everything happened that changed my life. I was surrounded by such surreal devastation. It's really hard to verbalize the things that was the way that things were those days. But more for me, which pressed me more, was the response of the Haitian people and their strength and their beauty and their resilience and their determination, to take back everything that the earthquake had stolen from them. And I wanted to be a part of that.
And speaking of being part of it, there was a woman's words that ignite something for you. Tell us a little bit about that story and how that started a domino effect of what you wanted to do next.
Sure. So the United Way had given me 2 weeks to vacation, and I ended up being there for this. I was on about month 3 at this point because things just got so crazy. And I was in a tent camp distributing water filtration systems. And this woman touches me on the arm and she says, "Blanc, moi pas besoin de l'eau, moi voulais travail." And at the time I didn't speak Creole and I didn't know what she said. But then one of the translators said to me, she said, "Hey, white lady, I don't want any water, but I need a job." And I was like, a job? Yeah, like of course, because what I was learning in those 3 months was, yes, the earthquake had physically destroyed everything and taken so much from everybody that we encountered, but the poverty that was surrounding Haiti and has been engulfing Haiti for so long was a powerful weapon, like equally as powerful and destructive as an earthquake. And it was like this long-term development that was kind of beating in on me, like, okay, I don't really want to just be a part of these immediate recovery efforts. I want to stay the long game. I want to help bring opportunity to Haiti. I want to work with the Haitian people and see what we can do together. And there was this amazing leather industry and craftsmanship and artistry and I mean, just incredible talent on the island that just wasn't being optimized because there was no marketplace. And so we thought, okay, what can we do together? And that's kind of how the story happened, working together in community with people.
Once again, listen to I Am Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, Julie Colombino-Bellingham, and she is the founder of Deux Mains. When you think about the opportunity that was at your feet, if you will, you didn't set out there from the beginning to just launch a fashion brand, but somehow, some way, it just shaped into an opportunity. So when you think about the disaster relief and how it evolved into Deux Mains, what was that process for you to say, you know what, this actually could work?
Oh, yeah, it was years and years of, even thinking, how are we going to register ourselves? So I have a master's in nonprofit management with a focus on disaster response. So this is what I knew about. This is what I had been trained in, educated in. And so starting a business was really kind of far from my mind. But these women said they wanted jobs. We were meeting kids that said they wanted to go to school, that, people that wanted to get into job training. And we were just kind of seeing all these needs, and it just kept being pounded into me. Okay, education and jobs. So we registered a nonprofit first, Rebuild Globally, and we started helping some of the kids in the local communities, getting back into school and trying to help, strengthen some of the school systems that were already around. And then an interesting thing that was happening is, the kids would graduate, this was many years later, they'd graduate high school, and there would be no opportunities for like apprenticeships or job placement programs or jobs. And so in addition to the women asking for jobs immediately after the earthquake, now these young people who are educated, the top in their class, there's no jobs for them. And so we thought, man, this something is awry here. We have to do something differently. And so we decided to build the factory. And, we said, if there are no jobs to be had, we will build. And that is why the company is called Deux Mains, which means two hands in Creole, because we figured anything that we needed, we had to build ourselves with our own two hands. So in addition to our beautiful leather bags being made by hand now, everything from the system, from, the infrastructure, everything we built by ourselves. And it was just this interesting thing of, people knowing what they needed and people knowing what they needed to get out of poverty. And it was just the willingness to listen. And that's really all I brought to the table, was a willingness to listen and a willingness to stay. And now 16 years later, we have this beautiful solar powered factory that employs over 50 people, and almost half of the team are graduates from our education program. And, and so in addition to being craftsmen and women, they are HR managers and operations managers and logistics people, like any position needed is filled through our students in the education program. So it's kind of this amazing, cycle that we've been able to create, which is, just been really amazing.
Being able to create such a structure that allows room for growth, not just for the locals, but I would argue a legacy, because now this is something that they'll appreciate generations from today. I mean, this is not something that's just going to fade away. This most likely would be something that they'll be proud of for years to come.
Them and me, people always say, oh, you've created so many jobs in Haiti. I said, well, I've also created a job for myself, so it's a gift to me as much as it is to anyone else. And, we have worked hard to create this business. And you kind of asked earlier, how did you go from disaster response to business? I mean, and it took years to register the business, years to studying, fashion design and understanding what was trending and how we could be competitive in the market. How, a Haitian company, which is, it's not typically known for luxurious leather bags, usually people think Paris or Italy when they think high craftsmanship, but they don't think about Haiti. And so it's been that storytelling piece that we've been working, like just trying to pound into the pavement of this talent lives here in Haiti, along with all the poverty and all the things that you see on the news. There's this other whole side of the island that we want just to shine through our collections.
And being responsible for building a luxury brand, you have a phrase that I want to share with our audience, and that is dignity through work, not charity. Kind of unpack that for us, and why is that the central of your mission?
You know, working in charity a lot, I saw a lot of destructive things that I did, that I participated as a young person working in the industry and the social work in my own communities in America, and also things that I was doing in Haiti and things that other people were doing in Haiti. And I realized, I'm not lucky enough to be a mom myself, but if I were a mother, I imagine watching someone else pay for my child's school shoes or education or Christmas presents might take something away from me. And that might not be what I want. I might want the dignity to be able to afford those things myself. And so in a place like Haiti, where there's a 79% unemployment rate, due to the lack of infrastructure and jobs to be had, people didn't want, was what they were telling me. They didn't want someone else to sponsor their child to go to school, didn't want someone else buying Christmas presents for their child. They wanted to do that themselves. And the only way they could do that is if they had an income. And so we talk a lot about, economic freedom and the justice of having a paycheck, because it's all those things, when someone has an opportunity to have them, that changes an entire family.
Once again, listening to Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, Julie Colombino-Bellingham, and she's the founder of Deux Mains, and it's a luxury brand. And I saw some images on her website. And for those who are just tuning in, if they want to check out where they can buy this product and understand even a little bit more resource history of what y'all are doing, what's the best website that they can go to check out all the products?
Yeah, please check out Deux Mains. It's DEUXMAINS.com. And on our website, you can definitely not only, browse the products and selections, but learn more about our story. But, so a little feather in our hat that I like to share with people is that about 4 months ago now, we were picked up by Nordstrom's. And what's really exciting is that, a mainstream, huge department store is now carrying a Fairtrade brand from Haiti. And so it's been, amazing to think that Fairtrade is being accessible to the, the numbers of that Nordstrom has. Like, we obviously don't have that kind of traffic, but they do. And so it's been really exciting to watch as, we get more and more customers and more people being introduced to our brand and to our concepts, and thinking about fair trade, Haitian made bags. I think it's, it's like I said, it's kind of I guess if it were a food, it would be a delicacy, because it's kind of rare. But I feel like once you have one of our bags, you don't want to go back because they're so beautifully made.
When you think about sustainable success, it's easy to talk about it, but it's another thing to actually build it and actually see it actually stay in place. When you look at production and what you've learned along the way and what works and what doesn't work, what are some of the things that excite you about the future now that you know more today than you did before?
Oh my gosh, every day has been learning. It's been so much. But I'll tell you, just like most small businesses, COVID really gave us a run for our money. And so the Haitian government mandated we close our factory and only operate at 30% capacity. So 70% of our team didn't have work during that time of COVID. And even though we pay very European taxes, we're highly taxed in Haiti, there were no safeguards, no furloughs or PPP. I don't even remember all the things that we used to have that were given to businesses. We had none of that. So we had to be really creative. And something that what we learned to do was, the first thing we did was we made face masks. So we went from making like luxury bags to face masks for all the local hospitals and NGOs in Haiti. So we had to really be able to diversify what we did. And then being out in the countryside when a lot of people left Port-au-Prince because the government made us, close parts of the factory, was we saw this need for Haitian children to wear school shoes, appropriate school shoes, because there's a uniform for young children in Haiti. and most of them didn't have appropriate school shoes, so they would either be kicked out of the class or made fun of or not go to school at all without shoes, because a lot of these kids are actually walking. So we decided to diversify our line, and now half of our factory makes school shoes for Haitian children, these leather, they kind of look like Mary Janes for the girls, and then the other half is making the handbags. And so diversifying has really protected us as well, because handbags are seasonal. Like, we just had a great Black Friday, Christmas season, but January is pretty slow, but kids still need shoes in January. So diversifying the business has really protected us. And so I would say that's one of the greatest lessons I've learned, is figuring out, like, especially in manufacturing, if you can figure out other products to make that and whole different audiences. So our handbags are for export and our school shoes are for local consumption. It's definitely saved our business more than once.
And we think about other challenges of being an entrepreneur and leading a Fairtrade-verified operation in Haiti. It's very, I can imagine, a complex learning curve, especially being an outsider. How have you been able to warm up with the culture there, with the people, locals, and not promise, but show proof of your interest in the community?
Oh, that wasn't easy. I mean, naturally, I'm what they call blanc. I'm white. I'm foreign. I'm a woman. So I had all these strikes against me, to be quite honest. So it's like, it wasn't easy, but I made a promise to my business partner, Jolina. She's one of the first women I met in Haiti, and said to her, look, I will stay as long as you will let me. I will, because a lot of problems were that foreigners were coming in, particularly after the earthquake. I think they said 11,000 NGOs opened up that year after the 2010 earthquake, and like 16 are left, because people start organizations with good intentions, or orphanages or schools, but then they can't sustain them because there's no local involvement. So when people just kind of helicopter in and want to do something, of course, with a good intention, if there's no local commitment, it's not going to work. So for us, our factory is completely Haitian run, and our nonprofit Rebuild Globally is completely Haitian run. For me, it was the only way that this would work, because there was so much culturally I didn't understand. Like, I can tell you, 3 years in, we had this really strong education program going, but our kids were failing the national exams. And I said, how are our kids failing? They've got everything that they need. They're motivated. They're working hard. What's happening? Well, I went into the classroom and I learned that they were speaking in Creole, which is the national language, and in the homes they were speaking Creole, and all of the schoolwork was in Creole. But the national exam was in French, which is also a verified local language of Haiti. So Creole and French. And so the kids didn't know French. And so even though they were excelling in school, they were failing their national exams. And so it was this thing, and we're like, oh my gosh, we need to have French training, French tutoring every day, for every child, everywhere, and just trying to figure out like things and until I realized that I would never understand all these little intricacies of the culture that had to be Haitian run, and that from that day forward, everything was Haitian run.
When you think about the global partnerships that you have now, I've read about that you have partnerships with the United Nations. When you think about the opportunity to amplify not just the brand, but to refine your mission, what are some of the things that you're learning with your global partners?
Yeah, so United Nations were kind of the first ones that gave us a chance, gave us some outside funding, allowed us to increase our staff by 12 people, which was really amazing. USAID, when that was a thing, they were our first investors for the factory, and that opened up so many more doors, because if USAID invested, I started pitching at other places and got other investments just simply because we had our first investor. So those global partnerships were everything, and the landscape of global partnerships has changed drastically in the past year. And to be honest, I don't know what it's going to look like in the future, but they don't exist in these moments anymore. So we've been lucky we've had some fashion partnerships. So with Kenneth Cole, we were producing for Kenneth for a while. We had we used to make sandals. We were making sandals at Ron John surf shops, and so it was just like some of these different, we're looking for more fashion partnerships. And now with our partnership with Nordstrom's, that's, just kind of elevating us in a different way. And now it's more fashion forward than it is almost humanitarian forward, even though the truth is both are needed when you're a social entrepreneur.
And just follow up on that, when you think about brand ambassadors, that's something that's very popular in the United States. Is that something that your brand has explored recently or plans to in the future?
It's definitely something we plan to do for 2026. It's part of our 2026 goals. So yes, I think, just the more people that know about you and the more people that, hear about you from others that they trust, the better. So it's definitely part of our strategy for this year. We've got a real plan for growth, which we're really excited about for 2026.
Once again, listen to I Am Refocused Radio, watching us online, talking to our guest today, Julie Colombino-Bellingham. And she's the founder of Deux Mains. You need to understand that, man, this is not a brand that's going away. I love the story, how it came about. I think it's not just inspirational. I think you're creating a space to allow other people to shine. And I think that will have greater impact in the future years to come, because the way it was built, I think, is unique and is a way that brings people together.
Thank you for saying that. I just published a memoir, and it's called From Lost to Legacy, How a Fashion Business Rose from Haiti's Rubble. And when I first started writing it, it was meant to be more of a textbook, because I thought, all the mistakes we're making in Haiti, all the things that we're seeing, I want to document this so people can learn from our mistakes and maybe get farther ahead quicker than we did. Anyway, but 10 years later, it became a memoir. And when my publisher said this is a memoir, I said, this story is so much more than just my story. And so I interviewed about 50 people, mostly my Haitian team, and some of whom don't speak English. And so it's been kind of amazing, because I was able to translate their stories. And now, people are reading from these incredible young men and women what they've been through in their life, what they've done. And I just feel so honored that I got to share that, through this book. And so just kind of to echo what you were saying, this is definitely not just my story or my business. It is a community effort for sure, because the team that I started this with 16 years ago, half of them are still with us. More than half.
That's really good. When you think about other creators out there, founders who we listen to this episode or watching us online, when you think about purpose-driven leaders, and we touched on power of listening. You said that earlier in the interview. What do you hope someone who's watching this or listening who wants to build a legacy with their brand, their mission, what does listening actually do for a person who's driven by leadership?
Particularly in my circumstance, because when I didn't speak Creole in the beginning, people tend to think if you don't speak the same language as somebody else that they're less intelligent than you. And I'm just so grateful that I was told in my heart to listen. That's what I was told, just listen more than you talk, and was able to learn about the incredible experience, knowledge, local knowledge, fashion, all things that were related to our business. But I'm just so grateful that I did that. And I would just hope that people would always just have the patience, particularly leaders, to listen to those around them. Because even though you're in a leadership position for a reason, you've gotten to where you're at. So that's amazing. Congratulations. But there are always people around you who helped you get there, or who can help you succeed more. So listening to your team or your community there's no substitute for it. There's nothing better.
If someone is watching us or listening, they're like, well, where's this brand going? What do y'all have cooking in the lab right now as far as game plan and expansion? Without giving too many details, if you can tease the audience with maybe a goal that company has currently, what's some of the things you're hoping to hit the ground running in 2026?
2026, we are hoping for our first flagship store.
Nice.
So that's like I said, we've been in business 16 years, so it's been a long time, but that's been kind of on the vision board for this year. So that's our little teaser.
Well, we might have to have you back on. Might have to have you back on the show and catch up and find some updates what's going on, because I'm just saying, because I'm in media, so it's hard for me to hold back. I could see a documentary being built on this whole brand, because it's it was something that was thought of in processes, if I can put it that way. It wasn't done in 24 hours, 48 hours. It was something that it marinated overnight. It grew from a tiny speck until boom, you're doing all these shows, you're appearing on all these platforms, you're building awareness, and you're still here. I mean, how many entrepreneurs can say I'm still here? I mean, it's a hard life being an entrepreneur. It's not easy. It's not meant for the easy button. The easy button don't exist. Sometimes you have to create the button yourself. But land the plane. My last question for you is, as you're building awareness for the brand and educating people, which I think is powerful the way you're doing it locally and changing lives, literally, with education and helping people get not just a job, but a career. What are you hoping that you continue to not just build for yourself, but to build for Haiti?
Economic freedom is really what's on my heart, is that, people all over. So we're lucky to say that, our team, that works with us, we have enjoyed this economic freedom for a few years now, but I still feel like we're so small. We have 50 employees. I want to have 50,000 employees. I want to see jobs all over the country. I want to see Haiti thrive again. It used to be called the Pearl of the Antilles. Haiti is this beautiful place with mountains and waterfalls and beaches and so much to offer. I want to see her shine again. And if Deux Mains can help that come to fruition, that would be a life goal for sure.
Sounds like.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, and also we would love to partner with you on a documentary. We are up for that.
I was just about to say, it sounds like a movie in the making. So I will definitely have to talk afterwards, because I think what you're doing, I have some ideas for you that I'll share later. But for our audience who are watching, listening to us, and they want to stay in connection with what you're doing, and some of them are global, we have a global audience and they want to start shopping, what's the best way they can keep in touch with the brand?
Yep, definitely check us out at deuxmains.com, and we're on Instagram at deuxmains_official. And I guess if Nordstrom fans, you can shop us online at Nordstrom. And actually, we just got onto Kohl's website too, so you can shop on Kohl's for us. So there's some, there's some, yeah.
That's great news. Well, once again, want to say to our guest, Julie, not goodbye. We'll see you later, because I think, like I said, you probably have a movie in the making. I have a gut feeling, because I feel what you're doing is bigger than what people are talking about right now. And you're early in the game. Like, people have to catch up later in 2026. But my words.
Okay.
On this summer of 2026, I expect to have a update from you, even if it's not an interview. If you just shoot an email and say, hey, look what's happening. Like, by this summer of 2026, I'm predicting right here on this show, exclusively, I think this is the brand that's going to be global. So you heard it here first.
From your lips to God's ears.
So, like I always want to say to Julie, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. It was really fun talking with you.